All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is the end of April, and you all know what that means. It's time for us to review the chapters of One Piece we get every month. Now, for this reflection, it's going to be shorter, simply because we have fewer chapters this month. Ogata-san, it is always good to see you. Let's go ahead and begin, shall we? Yo, peoples! Kyushu92 here, and welcome to the One Piece reflection stream for the month of August. For those who don't know, I do this every month, every year, where we go over the chapters of One Piece that we get every single month. Now, for the past couple of months, from January already all the way to March, we've been getting consistent 3 chapters. Consistent 3 chapters. Even though we've had some breaks, a couple of months here and there, it's been a consistent 3 chapters ever since this year started. Yeah, I'm looking at the list. We started on January 5th, January 21st, and then January 28th. Then we went to February 4th, February 18th, and then February 25th. Then in March, it was March 3rd, March 17th, and March 24th, day after my birthday. So for April, this is the first time for the year where we get fewer than 3 chapters. But the chapters that we got for this entire month, I try to say a whole bunch in a whole breath, so I try to get it all out, so I gotta breathe. The chapters that we got for this month were shorter. The chapters we got for this month were shorter, but they were also incredible. So, going forward, we start with chapters 11, 12, and then we end this month with chapters 11 and 13. So, starting off, we start with chapter 11-12, which is called Hard Aspects. And this pretty much shows the aftermath of what happened when the Gorosei pretty much made their stand and started, taking control of the situation on Egghead at the moment. We have them, the Navy saying all pacifistas are neutralized, increase bombardment, make sure Emperor Straw Hat Luffy doesn't escape. And we're seeing all these pacifistas pretty much disabled on the ground as Ethan Baron, Nusjuro, as everyone calls him, Nusjuro, he's making his way through using his hybrid Bakotsu form to slice through all the pacifistas using the chill of the underworld. And he's moving at such a speed that no one is able to accurately or even fully see who or what he is. He's moving that fast, and he's already neutralized every single pacifista along the coast of Egghead. And while this is going on, he's musing to himself, only 12 years old, and you gave this mere girl enough power to level an entire country. What a foolish rebellion to stage against us, Vegapunk. And as you can see here, the Gorosei are still set beside themselves with the mere thought that Vegapunk would give control of quite possibly one of the strongest weapons in the entire world. The entirety of every single pacifista that exists. And that includes the Mark IIIs, and by extension, the Seraphim themselves, in the control of 12-year-old Bonnie. Well, just Bonnie as a whole. Her being 12-year-old, I mean, she hasn't resorted to that state yet. She's still in her adult form as they're escaping. But all of the control of every pacifista in the entire world, both regular ones, like the prototype ones, the ones that just regularly look like Kuma, the Mark IIIs, which are the advanced versions, and then the Seraphim, which are the pinnacle of pacifistas. That's all under Bonnie's control right now. And her control overrides even that of the Gorosei. So you can already see that she's a major threat to them because she wields power they don't. And you already know that when it comes to the Gorosei, if you have more power than them, well, you can't have more power than them. You either give them that power and then you submit to being an insect in their eyes, or you die. If you know more than them, you die. If you have more power than them, you die. That is simply just how this dynamic goes for the Gorosei. So, he's musing, Nusjuro is musing to himself, what a foolish rebellion to stage against us, Vegapunk. Then we have Oimo and Kashi making their way towards the ships, going, let's get back to the ship. There are some deadly foes on this island. So they can tell that there's more than just the Marines on this island. They haven't seen the Gorosei themselves, but they know that there are some fearsome foes on the island outside of the Marines and the Vice Admirals that are standing against them. So as the bombardment continues, We have the Navy saying, don't let them take off. Sink the Elbaf ship. Hurry to the northeast shore. And as this is going on, Frankie is fighting Vice Admiral Red King. And Frankie just instant one-shots him and sends him flying towards the ground. Then we have Vice Admiral Pomsky launching towards Bonnie. And Bonnie uses her powers to turn Vice Admiral Pomsky, I remembered his name, into a child and proceeds to kick him in the face. To the point where Vice Admiral Guillotine is all like, stop it, this just looks wrong. And I said this during my reaction to this chapter, that I find it hypocritical. I find it incredibly hypocritical how this Vice Admiral is saying, it's wrong for you to be kicking a child in the face, even though they're trying to kill Bonnie, who is in fact a child. Now, mind you, I honestly feel like they've seen Bonnie in her child state simply because she's shifted in between those states when Kuma showed up to rescue her from Saturn. So I'm pretty sure they know that she is a child. They know she's a child. But it's kind of hypocritical for this Vice Admiral to say, like, this just looks wrong for you to be kicking a child in the face when every single Marine is pretty much given orders to kill Bonnie, who is in fact a child. So, just very hypocritical of the Navy to just say all this nonsense. So, like, this is wrong! Meanwhile, they're going off of orders to kill a child so that they can remain in power. So while this happens, she winds up kicking Child Pomsky in the face. Guillotine is looking, and then we cut back to the Labo phase, where Vegapunk is still continuing with his message. Mars is up there searching for the room where this broadcast, the same broadcast that Vegapunk is trying to tell the entire world about, he makes it to the room where the broadcast took place. The room where the broadcast is set in with York, and he's wondering, this is clearly the same room. They must have recorded the message here, but... And then we see that Mars, in his Itsumade form, is capable of expelling a blast from his mouth. And he proceeds to blow a hole into the building. But York stops him, going, wait, stop, don't just go crazy. And then the message continues, even after Mars blasted a hole in the entire building. And the message continues with Mars going, see, the message is still going. If I were the Stella, I would hide the transmission transponder snail emitting the signal somewhere. Then I will simply destroy the entire lab. You can't. The second floor of Building B is for weapons development, which they need. The first floor is the power plant, which they need. Third floor of Building C has our entire supply of pressurized gas cylinders. Destroying any one of them, and it'll set off a chain reaction throughout the lab that blows up Punk Records itself, which the Gorosei need, because they really don't want to destroy anything more than they need to, specifically where the power plant and ways to create the Mother Flame, which just happens to be the same building that Mars was preparing to blast in the first place, if not stopped by York, which would then, as she said, set off a chain reaction that would have destroyed all of Punk Records. We find out more about Punk Records in the next chapter. And I'll get knee-deep into One Piece after that. Then think of where it is. Your neural pathway should be the same as his. I'll stop it, of course. If I add crime upon crime, it'll only make it harder to get along with you folks. And then it cuts to Mars sensing something above him, pretty much showcasing that he has observation haki, as he says, I sense the voice of a small creature. In Punk Records? Is it a transponder snail? The transmission transponder snail was just recently completed. You can recognize it by its triangular spiral shell. Tell me how to get in. And he immediately starts flying up to Punk Records. Then we cut to Stussy, who's still inside of the main control room, along with Kaku, who was still trapped inside of the Sea Prism bubble. And she's talking to Kaku going, well, aren't you lucky? Seems it wasn't interested in you. Meaning that they were in the room. They were in the same room where Mars burst in, but Mars didn't even notice him because he was really going after York to find out where this message was being broadcast from. So Kaku's all like, what was that monster? Based on the conversation, one of the 5 elders. You think so? What a ghastly transformation. Where even Kaku's all like, yeah, that's ugly. They abandoned you, didn't they, Stussy? How sad and ironic after you chose to betray us. Sorry, but staying behind was my idea. Someone has to carry out the final job, after all. And the final job is making sure that everyone gets out of, I was about to say Punk Hazard. Everyone gets out of Egghead. So then we cut to the Labo phase where we have Nami, Chopper, Robin, Edison, and pretty much everyone else who's still up there, such as Usopp, Lilith, and Brooke. They're all up there with them going, wait, you mean to tell me we're leaving Stussy behind? What other option we got? Undoing the barrier's gotta happen at the same moment the ship escapes. The only way to lower the Frontier Dome is at the command room. She volunteered to do it. If you want to do right by her sacrifice, you better make sure the escape's a success, eh? And then, Nami's kind of protesting a little bit. I mean, she's agreeing with Edison, but she's kind of protesting because the thought of leaving someone behind just so they can make their escape, it's not something every member of the Straw Hat crew would get on board with. Least of all, someone like Nami and Robin. Well, of course we're going to do everything we can to escape, but still. And then Robin chimes in, the problem is the distance that the Vega Force 1 would have flown us. Exactly right, Nico Robin. I've calculated it up. And going by classical mechanics, I do these voices so often that I just get right into it. I'm sorry. I normally read these like normal voice. But the voices take over. This ship's guaranteed to land on solid ground now. And then Usopp goes, hey folks, Dakota Burst is all ready to rock. Once Zoro's group gets here, we're gonna make a super jump out to sea. And if it looks like we're not gonna make it, that's your cue to help us out. Got it? And then Edison is laughing. And he's going, but I love the guts you got. Must be hard to be your ship, but I love the guts you got. Wherever miracles occur, that's the power behind them. And that's coming from a scientist. And then Edison jumps off of the Labo Phase cloud platform straight towards the Frontier Dome itself. And with Edison going, I'll make sure your ship touches down in the water. Trust in me. Simulated external damage, 78%. And then Nami's still screaming. They're still screaming for Edison as he just flies straight into the Frontier Dome. And you see the explosion from the actual impact. It won't kill me. Here goes! And then we cut back to the outside of Egghead, where the ships that are all outside of the coast, not just, in direct proximity of the actual coastline itself, but some of them that are further out, they start getting pulled closer and closer as this massive amount, like this vacuum suction effect, starts coming from the center of the island. And we find out that it's Jupiter in his, I want to say, sandworm form or Mongolian deathworm form. We're going to call it sandworm because that's the name that they give him. In his sandworm form, where he's just basically inhaling everything around him with extreme force to the point where even Dorian Bragi and Luffy have to run away. And for Luffy, in Luffy's case, in his Gear 5 state, this is done to a comical effect where he's trying to run away, but his skin is literally being, pulled back, like stretched back because I gotta be careful how I say this. People like to make jokes. Every time I think of something, it can be taken out of context. I gotta be careful here. See, I keep thinking of something, but it can really be taken out of context. This might be the safest way. Luffy's skin is being pulled back in comedic effect, and like cartoony comedic effect, due to the pull of Jupiter's inhalation. I'll say it like that. It's too wordy for it to be taken any other way. But as that's happening, Luffy speeds off, and he proceeds to kick over a building, a very big building, and goes, if you're that hungry, have a building, and throws the building directly into the face, directly into the mouth of Jupiter, which causes him to, I gotta be very careful how I approach these panels when I describe them. He throws a building into Jupiter's mouth, stopping him from trying to inhale everything around him. Yeah, that might be the safest way for me to say it, and I'm just gonna leave it like that. So as that's going on, they start to run away, and then Luffy starts to fall out of his Gear 5 state, and he starts to go back to normal. And both Dory and Bragi are confused as to how Luffy looks that way. You've turned into some strange old man. Ran out of food power. Need food? How about some hot Carl? Hot Carl? What's that smell? It's fermented shark. Emergency rations from Ilbaf. Now, the thing we learned about Hakarl during the reaction is that it's actually fermented. It's Psycho, good to see you. It's actually fermented shark meat, literally left out to rot in an open shed. It has some preservatives in it so that it doesn't just rot all the way through, but it's like an Icelandic dish where you just leave shark meat out to dry and just rot. And people actually eat this. They eat this. They just put some preservatives on it and then just leave it out in a shed to just dry out. I've seen the pictures of what Hakarl looks like, and it's just rotten food is rotten food, okay? I don't care how good or how bad your taste is. Rotten food is rotten food. I ain't eating no rotten meat. But we put some salt on. But do we put some salt on it? It'll be alright for you if you eat it with the slide of cheese. No, I'm not eating any rotten fish meat. Rotten is not good for you. It's rotten. No, it's not good for you. I looked it up and it's crazy that the fact that this is a real dish. This is a real thing that people eat. Fermented. Do you know what fermented means? We're having a definition. We're learning here. Fermented, of a substance undergoing fermentation. So, fermentation is the chemical breakdown of a substance by bacteria, yeasts, or other microorganisms, typically involving effervescence and the giving off of heat. And effervescence means bubbles in a liquid or fizz, which if you ever watch like a time lapse of like food just being out and it rotting, that's basically what it is. Fermentation and effervescence. So it's like that. It's nasty. It's disgusting. But he eats some of the Hakarl and he gets his strength back. And it's a giant slab. And for giants, it's like a small piece of meat for them, emergency rations. But for Luffy, it's a giant piece of meat and he immediately gets his strength back. Like his muscles bulge and everything, saying that he's feeling energized. Then we have Warcury, who is cloaked in flames, and he's running towards both Dory, Broggy, and Luffy. And Luffy, who's not in his Gear 5 state, is using Gear 3rd, and tries to hit Warcury with Red Rock. He hits Warcury with Red Rock, but in the process, Luffy's arm gets burned. Simply because of the heat, because Warcury has engulfed his entire body in flames. So not only can Warcury turn his tusks, supernaturally turn his tusk into swords, not only can he let out a Conqueror's Haki roar that greatly surpasses what Big Mom did way back in Whole Cake Island, and it can be felt across an entire island, but he's also able to coat himself in just pure fire that is potent enough to burn Luffy's hand, who is also using Haki at the same time. And not only is it hot to Luffy, but he's not able to damage Warcury at all, to the point where he's not only getting pain from the burning, but he's also getting pain from just the straight up impact as well. And the last time we saw an instance where Luffy was up against an opponent who had superior Haki or superior toughness, and it actually hurt him to hit this person, was first Katakuri, when Katakuri was using his block mochi. And then the next person was Kaido, who pretty much at that point had the greatest Haki defense out of every single opponent he's ever gone up against. And this is another instance where Luffy isn't able to just fully bypass the defensive capabilities of another foe. This one is tough. This is Luffy after he defeated Kaido and was able to clash with Kizaru without having any lasting damage done to him. Right after he had clashed with Lucci struggling to do anything to Luffy at all. This is Luffy. This is the strength he has, and yet he's not able to do anything to any members of the Gorosei at all. So it makes you wonder just how much more strength are you going to need to kill these people? So while that's going on, we get to the rear side of the Labo phase, and then we see the top side of the Labo phase where the Straw Hat crew are preparing to set out, and we get spider legs climbing up there, signifying that Saturn has made his way up to the Labo phase. And then, over on the northeast shore of Egghead, we have Ethan Baron. We have Nusjuro over there, who's cut down one of the giants that was transporting, Atlas, Kuma, Bonnie, everyone to the Elfbath ship. They've been cut down by Nusjuro, and he's there to kill Bonnie. And the way they draw Nusjuro here in this panel is he's just cloaked in shadow. The flames of an awakened Zoan user is around his shoulders. His sword is right next to him, and you see the blood just dripping off of his sword as he's standing in front of both Frankie, Bonnie, and Atlas. Then we get to Punk Records that Mars has made his way into, with the message going 1 minute left, Stella, and it shows Mars walking up to the transmission transponder snail, and before he stops, he says, "Here it is. Fortune was not on your side, Vegapunk." And as that's going, we hear a glub glub sound, and he looks up, much to his surprise. And that is the end of chapter 11 and 12. That is the end of chapter 11 and 12. So the next one, this is the big one. The next chapter we get is we continue where Mars entered into Punk Records, with him going, and this chapter is titled, this one is chapter 11-13, titled Stalemate. And he enters into Punk Records going, "The greatest brain in the world, Punk Records." And Vegapunk continues going, "Well, it's been such a short time that the coffee's not even cool yet. But are they all set up with their video transponder snails by now, I wonder?" 30 seconds to go, Stella. "I feel a bit nervous knowing this is going all over the world." This is Shaka and Pythagoras, respectively. And it shows Mars looking up as he's standing right next to the transmission transponder snail. "It lives on, even after your death. Is this you, Vegapunk?" As it's revealed in one big massive panel that Vegapunk's actual upper head and brain, which has grown to an even greater size than what we last saw of it when he was younger and before he sliced it off, this is essentially Punk Records. Punk Records isn't just like, because originally, when I thought of Punk Records, I thought he just took all the information that he had in his brain and then just straight up digitized it. It really didn't pop into my head that maybe he sliced off his brain and it's up there. I didn't think of that until the second to last chapter back, when most of y'all were telling me what could possibly be in Punk Records. So, finding out that it's his entire upper head with his gigantic, massively enlarged brain inside, that's what Punk Records is. It's still learning, it's still taking on information, but it's inside of a vat that can house its ever-increasing size. And the size of this brain, compared to that of Mars, this is giant size. This is giant size. This is Dory and Brocky size, if not bigger than Dory and Brocky. I dare say the brain of Vegapunk is as big as a giant. That's how big it is. And Mars continues going, "What is death exactly? Where do our ideas truly reside?" Not unless this is his brain talking. Because I'm wondering if this is the brain of Vegapunk going, "What is death exactly? Where do our ideas truly reside?" Because it seems odd that it would be Mars who says, "What is death exactly? Where do our ideas truly reside?" I feel like this was Vegapunk's brain actually responding to Mars. Wouldn't be surprised if Vegapunk set it up so that his brain could actually talk back to him. That'd be another intellectual that he could conversate with. Just saying, just making the assumption. "What is death exactly? Where do our ideas truly reside?" And then, "Video will one day connect the entire world. It will mean knowing and the discomfort of being known." And then it cuts to different locations all over the world. Syrup Village, Usopp's home in the East Blue, Workaya, and Pepper, Carrot, and Onion are all sitting with Kaya listening to what Vegapunk is about to say. Then we have the Navy listening in. Then we have the Twin Capes where Crocus and Laboon are listening in. Then we cut to Future Island Baltimore, where the same people that Frankie encountered, they're all listening to Vegapunk's message. And that one old guy, I forget his name, the one that encountered Frankie before Frankie blew up Vegapunk's old lab, he says it's been decades since I last saw Vegapunk, meaning that he knew him, meaning that he knew him. Then we're cutting to the Birdie Kingdom, Chopper's training grounds in the South Blue, where they're talking about Vegapunk. Then back to Pirate Island full of lead. Pirate Island full of lead, we have the pirates just arguing back and forth while some of them are trying to listen in on what Vegapunk is saying. And I think it was Ozzy or someone else who conversated and said that, the encounter with Garp and everyone else when Garp rolled up to Island full of lead, there's still damage because the giant skull mountain that Blackbeard basically lives in, it still has a massive, gigantic crack going down the middle of it from Garp's Galaxy Divide. So that's still going on. Then we cut to another location of which we don't actually get the names of. But I'm trying to see if I can recognize some of the people, but I'm not really recognizing anyone immediately. But Vegapunk continues going, "Can you all hear me?" Then we cut back to Egghead as everyone, all the Navy, gets on alert because Vegapunk continues to speak. "Hello? This is Vegapunk." And then it shows that the transponder snail that Mars stepped on and tried to break the shell of turned out to be just another transponder snail that's broadcasting the actual message, proving that Vegapunk did indeed fake out the Gorosei in, having the real location of the transponder snail. It's Mars saying that? Okay, so I was right when I read it in Mars's voice during my initial reaction. Okay, good. It is Mars. It is Mars who said that. And you think I remember that given the fact that I just read it on Sunday and I went through the entire synopsis. So yeah, it was Mars who said what is death exactly? Where do our ideas truly reside? So it was Mars who said that. Thank you for the correction, Ogata. I really appreciate it. But Mars gets mad and upset that he thought he was going to be able to turn off the transmission, and it fails. "Just a regular transponder snail? Not only does he hide it, he fools us with decoys." And then in his Itsumade form, he bursts angrily out of Punk Records going, "Curse you, Vegapunk!" With Vegapunk still continuing. "Come in, world! It's a one-sided hijack of the wave, Stella." "I know that!" "Well, in that case, let's get this message started." And then numerous people are cheering, saying like, "Yeah, it's about time." And then we got other people listening in a forest about what Vegapunk is about to say. Then we have Itsumade getting a telepathic message from the other members of the Gorosei going, "It's not stopping, Mars. I'm sorry. Vegapunk has concocted a robust security system to prevent the transmission from being stopped." You really think that Vegapunk is going to be dumb enough to leave an easy off switch in order to keep the transmission from going? Showing that Vegapunk is... This is what happens when you have the smartest man in the world under your employ. He's probably smart enough to have a contingency just in case you don't want him to be the smartest man in the world anymore. So yeah, the Gorosei have, with all of their power, all of their strength, have absolutely no way to stop this transmission from going as it continues. "I'm sorry, Vegapunk has concocted a robust security system to prevent the transmission from being stopped. I don't know what he knows or what he intends to say, but your claim that he had carried on Ohara's research. So he refuses to go out like Clover, eh? Does he mean to avenge Ohara's loss?" And here it shows all the rest of the Gorosei's face in their Zoan states or semi-Zoan states. Mercury, Jupiter, Nusjuro, and Saturn, and it also shows the image of when Spandine shot Clover. "What is it, Vegapunk?" And then it cuts to Sanji, who's carrying Vegapunk, going, "I can hear it. The sound of Bonnie's voice, begging for my help." And it shows Sanji running headfirst towards Venus Jodo, who's preparing to bring his sword down on Bonnie. with Frankie defending Bonnie. The only one who gets to score points with Bonnie is me! Sanji, you might want to rethink that. You might want to rethink that right now when Sanji finds out what we know. When he finds out Bonnie's only 12 years old. When he finds out, it's going to be an interesting conversation. But he says this, the only one who gets to score points with Bonnie is me. He proceeds to blitz Nasjuro and kick him directly in the face, hard enough for him to draw blood from Nasjuro in this state. And as we've known, Zoan types are incredibly powerful in terms of their physical capabilities. They tend to be, even in their hybrid state or in their full Zoan animal states, they tend to have incredibly high levels of durability. So for Sanji to be able to just show up and kick Nasjuro in the face and then draw blood from Nasjuro from just one singular kick, it means that Sanji is at a level where he is capable of even bypassing and surpassing the durability of, I want to say, a mythical Zoan type. I mean, it should be obvious that they're mythical Zoan types because they've shown abilities that no normal Zoan is capable of doing, but they're all mythical Zoan types. And the fact that he's able to bypass that sort of durability just speaks to the level of Sanji's strength ever since the events of Wano. Did you think the elderly get special treatment? This is how pirates fight! And it shows Nasjuro not only getting kicked in the face by Sanji, but Sanji also hit him hard enough to literally set his face on fire. Well, actually, no, he didn't set on... Sorry. He didn't set Nasjuro's face on fire. It's just that Nasjuro sets himself on fire. He just does a self-immolation and causes his whole upper torso to just be engulfed in flames, and also cause the head of his Bakotsu Zoan form to come out of his chest to bite down on Sanji. Now, the thing that I noted when I was going through this chapter is the fact that Sanji does not get any blood drawn. He wouldn't be a mad scientist if he didn't make it where his brain to talk. If he didn't made it where his brain to talk to him. Kitty, good to see you. Joe, yo, Jay, good to see you. Yo, smartest man. Yep. So the thing about this is Sanji is getting bit down by Nasjuro, and you hear a crack and you hear a crunk sound, literally him biting down on Sanji with Bonnie screaming out, Sanji! What is it? I have committed 2 sins. And everyone is just steadily listening in what's going on. Then Oimo and Kashi come along, and they immediately tackle Nasjuro in this Zoan state, allowing Sanji to escape from his jaws. Now, mind you, I said that he bit down on Sanji, but Sanji didn't draw blood, showing that that exoskeleton of Sanji is far stronger than what it was before. But Vegapunk goes, I have committed 2 sins. And then it shows Atlas flying in and catching Vegapunk's body. Then it shows Bonnie as her body starts to enlarge as she uses Distorted Future. Who is that? Who is that? Is that Jewelry Bonnie? As Bonnie goes sailing into the air as her body continues to enlarge, as the Marines are watching, and then it shows that Bonnie, pretty much copying exactly what Luffy did in his Gum Gum Giant state in Gear 5, she uses a move called Giant-like Future, where she basically just copies Luffy and proceeds to jump high into the air while Oimo and Kashi are holding on to Nasjuro, preparing to stomp on him. And all we see is just Nasjuro's frustrated face as he's being forcibly held onto, while Bonnie's preparing to crush him underfoot. Whether or not him being crushed is something that can keep him down permanently, or if it's just going to be a temporary measure due to the fact that they are essentially immortal with their abilities to regenerate, remains to be seen. We'll have to see once this break is over. But Vegapunk continues, Therefore, whether I am arrested or executed, I shall program this message to be broadcast when my heart stops beating. And then we come back to Sabaody, where people who are listening in are fully realizing that if this message is being broadcast, then that means Vegapunk is dead. We even have one person who's going, you mean Vegapunk is already dead? Then we have Duval and his crew listening in on all of this. That can't be right. In the news this morning, it said that he was being held hostage by the Straw Hat crew. Then it cuts back to the castle of Germa, where Caesar is with Judge. And mind you, Caesar is the only one who Caesar is the only one who actually says something about these events. Judge is just kind of silent in the background. But Caesar is screaming, "You've got to be kidding me! We were trying to drag you off your ivory throne, and you..." And it also looks like Caesar is starting to tear up a little bit. Even though he hated Vegapunk's popularity and how much everyone regarded him as the greatest scientist in the world, I feel like Caesar had that sense of respect for Vegapunk just because of that status. I hate him, but I also respect him. Then it cuts to Morgans, who's all like, "You can't just give away the story to the entire world! How am I gonna sell my papers?" Because Morgans likes to spin the truth because it helps sell papers. But if Vegapunk is just gonna reveal all this news, then that pretty much just beats Morgans to the punch. Did I call Morgans Vegapunk? I feel like I did. But Morgans feels like if Vegapunk reveals all this stuff, then he can't sell any papers and spin the truth in the way that'll get people to buy those papers. If Vegapunk just drops all this knowledge, that just cuts Morgan's business in half for this one incredibly crucial moment. And then Vegapunk continues. "However, I want to make one thing very clear first. Whoever may have rendered their judgment onto me, I am not trying to convince you that their intent is evil." It's the Gorosei trying to kill him, so it's automatic that their intentions are evil. So he's just saying this just in case. It's not saying like, "Oh, I know the world government is coming to kill me, but I'm not gonna have you guys be upset at them." But since that is the case, and this message was just left ambiguous for whatever reason, just to cover all of his bases. "I will not apply the labels of good and evil at all. In fact, because I understand too little about him to begin with." And this is Saturn who's screaming out, "Vegapunk! Move! I have no time to deal with the likes of you!" And this is Saturn screaming this as everyone is trying to, defend the whole area from Saturn. But then Robin sits up and she notices that voice. "I see. That is quite an audacious hypothesis." And that's when Saturn zones in on Robin. "Nico Robin, the woman Akainu let slip between his fingers. The man is soft." And that's when Robin realizes that the voice she heard before Clover was killed those 20 years ago, is the same individual that's standing in front of her now. The very people that brought about the end of her childhood and thus propelled her down a life of misery and pain before she ran into the Straw Hats, is standing right in front of her. And while this is going, we also see like a little lines around Robin showing that she's kind of shaking a little bit. Because we all know how she feels about the events that happened on Ohara. Can't stay because I'm not caught up, just saying hi. Well, thank you. Thank you. So the thing about Robin is when it comes to her past, and especially when the touchy subject of her childhood, this is still traumatic for her. This is still incredibly traumatic for her. And finding the person that orchestrated basically the entire eradication of everyone she knew and loved, including her own mother, and the supposed loss of her best friend Saul, seeing the person that pretty much initiated that in front of her is kind of traumatizing for her. So when Saturn prepares to try and kill Robin, Nami screams, "Protect Robin!" And then Chopper, Brook, Usopp, and Zeus all chime in, showing just how great the Straw Hat crew are. They chime in order to shield Robin, to keep her from being killed by Saturn. We'll do whatever it takes. "Be gone, you miserable worms." And then it cuts to Vegapunk, who's still talking, while Mars is still blasting holes in different buildings. "What I am about to tell you is so preposterous, you might even burst into laughter." And then Mars, "It's no use. There are too many transponder snails in the lab. It seems there are no unique signals." And then York is still going, "Think, York! Think! Or you won't get to be a celestial dragon! I'm Vegapunk too! Where would I hide it?" And then it cuts to Vegapunk, who says, "However, you all have the right to know." What happens if we destroy the power plant?" "Don't! We can afford the loss of all the ships and sailors surrounding the island.
But no one will be able to create the Mother Flame anymore.
And this is Saturn and Mercury, respectively, talking to Mars, who's asking that question. And then Vegapunk goes,
To make a long story short, the world as we know it will sink into the sea.
And then it shows this. Then it shows this light, like the light from the sun being shown through the clouds. And as one of y'all pointed out to me, the clouds all around Egghead, they look normal, except the clouds that are directly over Egghead. Those, all of a sudden, have appeared to darken. And then it shows light enveloping the sailors and soldiers. And it shows in the final panel, mermaids just swimming all underneath the water. Now, whether the light that's being shown onto Egghead and shown on the Navy sailors that are on Egghead right now, and the light that's being shown to the mermaids under the sea is the same exact location, remains to be seen. But the news of the entire world of One Piece will soon sink into the ocean. That's news. And that is the last chapter that we got in the month of April. Now to talk about why this is incredibly serious. So, the world of One Piece, everywhere we know, will sink into the ocean. This is bad for a multitude of things. For one, there are a bevy of devil fruit users that live out on different islands, if not just regularly on ships. But there's a bevy of devil fruit users who just live out there in the world, who are going to be subject to basically the world becoming engulfed in nothing but water. That is essentially what Vegapunk is saying. Every place we have been to, and you could physically walk on, in terms of islands and continents and nations that we've seen, it will soon sink. It will sink. I keep saying soon. It will sink into the sea. Drum Island will be gone. Wano may be gone. It depends on how high the water levels raise, but if the world as we know it will sink into the sea, we can't count out any other nation that isn't on an extremely high elevation. So maybe Wano has a better chance than a great deal of other places. Alabasta, gone. Sabaody, potentially gone. What is it? Long Island, that's probably going to be gone as well. We got to think of all these different places. Logtown, Syrup Village. All these places that we've seen in this particular chapter that are just land masses where people are living on. Windmill Village. Fuchsia Village. Every place we've been to and you could physically go to is going to be gone. Buried underneath the ocean. The only people who are going to be able to survive this are people who live on Zou, the Sky Islands, Morgan's News Coup mobile ship. There's not many places you can go if every single landmass that touches water is engulfed in water. Whole Cake Island, gonna be gone. Navy headquarters, that's gonna be gone. Impel Down, it has the capacity of just being completely submerged underwater. I'm pretty sure the makers of Impel Down didn't account for the water levels rising at all, because the water levels rising after the events of the Lelouch Kingdom being completely eradicated out the map, and then the water raising up 1 meter, pretty sure it's affecting everywhere else. Because it's been said that some places that didn't have water on it have now caused the water to raise a significant amount ever since Lelouch was wiped out of the map, and it left a giant gaping hole in the middle of the ocean with apparently no bottom. Now, the reason why this is an incredibly strange phenomena to me, and still when I think about this situation, it's an incredibly strange phenomenon on how there's a gigantic country-sized hole. Because remember, Lelouch is not a small island. It is a massive island. It's a massive island. And now there's a massive island-sized hole where it used to be. And somehow, instead of the water level decreasing due to the water just perpetually falling into this hole, the water levels have rose somehow. That is incredibly strange to me. Because you would think that for water to drain out into some place, the water levels would get lower, maybe? You would think they would get lower, but that's not the case. The water levels have actually gotten higher. They've actually gotten higher after having a giant hole just laying there in the ocean right now. So now you got to think about all these places we've been that are subject to falling into the ocean. Dressrosa, Whole Cake Island, Drum Island, Syrup Village, Nami's home, Zoro's home, everywhere that isn't already on a high elevation is going to be subject to being submerged. And the only people who are going to be able to survive is, like I said, people who live on Zou, the Sky Islands. The mermaids are fine. All of them are fine. If the water's level raise, it doesn't mean anything to the fish folk and the merfolk, because they're fine. They already live underwater. Everyone else is going to have an issue. And that's even worse for Devil Fruit users who, one, don't have a ship of their own, and two, don't have a power that enables them to fly in any way. About the only person that could really survive, about the only few people that can survive this whole situation are basically Logia users who are capable of either freezing the water, such as Kuzan, or being able to fly due to their unique Logia state, such as Crocodile, Smoker, or Kizaru. There are many people, and then the only other ones that can really survive are Zoan users who have the ability to fly because of their transformations into winged creatures. So Pell would be exempted, Stronger would be exempted. I'm trying to think of someone else. Buggy, Buggy in terms of like Zoan users and Paramecia users, there's very few who are capable of surviving absolutely no problem in an environment where they cannot touch water at all. Doflamingo, he could probably survive, but since he's stuck in Impel Down on the lowest level of Impel Down, imagine Impel Down just suddenly being flooded with water. Because Impel Down is stationary. It is literally a prison built from the seafloor all the way up, and it's stationary. But, like I said, there's probably no way it's been built with the case of just in case the water levels rise. Someone on King of Lightning stream mentioned the film Waterworld as a possible outcome of this, which makes the situation all even worse, because Water 7, and we go back a ways to Water 7, back when I was reading through that volume for all of you during my original read-through. We get told that one of the dreams for Water 7 is to turn it into a floating city. Because, remember, all of those gigantic tsunamis that would, cause people to board up their homes and evacuate to higher levels, that's going to need to become a reality a lot faster with this news. Because remember, everyone is hearing what Vegapunk is saying. So that includes everyone at Water 7, and when Iceberg was being told by his young secretary that, hey, this is what Vegapunk's doing, now this is going to have to become a reality even faster. It's also interesting that Law's ship was a submarine instead of an actual ship. Oda planned it all like Law having a submarine. True. But at the same time, would that fish guy survive? What fish guy? If you have fish in front of their name, more than likely they will survive being submerged. But the Polar Tang is out of commission at the moment, isn't it? I think it was Kid's ship, the Victoria Punk, that got destroyed. But Law's ship got destroyed by Blackbeard. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm saying. Didn't it get destroyed? I'm pretty sure it got destroyed by Blackbeard during their skirmish, the same way the Victoria Punk got destroyed by Shanks and his people. So now with this revelation of the world will be submerged, will sink into the sea. Now we got a time lock. I know people hated it when Vegapunk said, "Hey, we got a timer now to when Vegapunk is going to reveal this big news." And some people, when we were put on a timer of like how long it was going to be when Vegapunk revealed this information to the world, people hated that. Now we have a permanent clock for the world of One Piece. Not just a timer that says, like, we got 30 minutes before this message goes out. We got 10 minutes before this message go out. We got how many minutes before Luffy's haki comes back so he can defeat Doflamingo. No. We are on a far more important timer right now that will be over, that will just hang over our heads for the remainder of One Piece. We have a timer that will exist until the end of One Piece. The timer of when the world will sink into the sea. So while all of these events are transpiring, we got to keep in mind that, hey, all these locations that we're going to be visiting, including Elbaf, they're subject to all of this as well. But there's Pluton. True, there's Pluton. Isn't it like a gigantic, massive warship? And we also got to think of the Noah as well. Y'all brought that up during my last stream. Y'all brought up the Noah as well. So we got to think about the things that are capable of having people survive on it for extended periods of time. So the Noah is going to be a ship that'll probably come into play much later on. That's still being repaired and everything after the events of Fishman Island, I believe. Oh, you meant Arlong. Would that fish guy survive? Would a fishman survive the whole world being engulfed in water? I'd say it's 50-50. Oh yeah, we haven't seen any character drown in water, right? Like dying. I mean, devil fruits wouldn't survive, but character isn't gonna die. I'm trying to see what you mean by this, DJ, because if you mean like if the character has a devil fruit power, they may sink into the water, but that doesn't necessarily mean they'll drown. I mean, the only instance we've seen of a devil fruit user getting into water and surviving was Jack, because he's half fish man. The only reason why he was able to survive being in water after Zunisha just demolished him and his ship was simply because he was part fish man. He couldn't move, but he could survive underwater simply because of his physiology. But when it comes to devil fruit users, I mean, being dropped into water is pretty much a death sentence, because you have no way to move and therefore no way to survive and no way to swim towards the top. Here's a thought that popped into my head when I read this chapter. The sea is trying to claim everybody. More importantly, when Vegapunk brought up the sea sees the devil fruits are essentially an anomaly in the world. This is what Vegapunk surmised, is that these devil fruit powers and their mere existence are an anomaly to the world, that the sea itself rejects them. So now, with the world sinking into the sea, I see it as an obscure way for the sea trying to claim these anomalies. Trying to cleanse the world of every devil fruit user. Not just every single person that lives on this world that may not have a way to survive, but the waters raising with no land masses being left behind, save for people living on nothing but ships for the rest of the world of One Piece. This is a dangerous state. This is a dangerous place. It'll become a dangerous place for any devil fruit user because they'll just be surrounded by their natural weakness. So it's interesting how this world that we've known for so many years, like well over 20 years, it's unique and yet at the same time scary how every place we've known, we've enjoyed, and have been looking forward to is gonna be underwater and submerged. So now you gotta think about the panic of this. We're getting told all of this stuff. And it was a shock. It's definitely a shock. But now you gotta think about when he's done talking. And we've all come to the conclusion is that this is not gonna be the big This is not the end of this big news, this really big news from Vegapunk. Seeing as how I feel like this is, we all surmised that this is basically just the start of what he wants to say. Because when you think about it, you can't just say, it may be hard for you to believe, but the world is going to sink into the sea. Okay? Care to explain? And I feel like Vegapunk is going to explain how he came to that thought. There's no way Vegapunk is just going to be all like, the world is sinking into the sea. Just thought I'd let you know that. Sorry you've been waiting 10 minutes for a 30-second message, but yeah. And I'm out. And then it just cuts out. There's no way that Vegapunk is not going to explain how he came to this line of thinking. Now, the explanation of how he came to this line of thinking, that's going to be the real important part. Simply because for a person who has studied all the knowledge of Ohara, or at least what the Giants could recover after the events of the Ohara incident, you can't tell me that through all of this knowledge that Vegapunk has gained, that he's not going to explain how he came to this conclusion, and thus everything that conjoins with it. The Gorosei are already spent. They have no way of stopping this transmission. I would be interesting to find out that the events of the world sinking into the sea for One Piece was already set in motion, not just recently, but many years ago. And that knowledge has just been kept under wraps by the Gorosei this entire time. But it's when we get explained how he came to this conclusion, I feel like is going to be one of the most important moments for One Piece. It's going to be interesting how the final moments in One Piece, like all the important keys, will play a role with Shirahoshi, Noah's ships, the ancient weapons. Having all of that come to a conclusion, that's going to be really interesting. But what we have right now is an opportunity where Oda could very well give us that long-awaited information that we've been looking forward to all this time concerning the Void Century, the Ancient Kingdom, and what this giant world-ending event could mean. Because this is a world-ending event. This is a world-ending event. Creatures that live on these big islands, all these places that rely on regular vegetation to survive, mountain ranges, forests, trees, fauna. Think about that. All of that is going to be gone. All that will be left is the sea and the things that live in the sea. Just think about that for a moment. Everything that requires land to survive is going to be taken by water. Think about it. How many nations, how many homes, how many people who live on land, how many children, how many families have we seen over the course of One Piece that we've grown to love, we've grown to be familiar with? We long for them to live long and happy lives. How many lives are about to be impacted by the thought that the world they know is going to be fully underwater with no way to go back? All the people we've seen, like Rika at that Navy base where Captain Morgan was. You got to think about Rebecca. You got to think about Viola. You got to think about Kiros. You got to think about all the giant children. You got to think about all these kids. You got to think about Tama, Toko. You got to think about all these people who are living good lives on this land, on these land masses surrounded by water. Imagine the thought of, like, my house, my home, my entire life is gonna be taken underwater. Places I loved growing up, gonna be gone. People I knew who may not be able to save themselves when this happened, gonna be gone. And now here's the thing. It doesn't necessarily mean that everything, and I know it's very easy to get the thought of like, oh, everything is just gonna be overtaken by water like a gigantic tsunami. But you just gotta think. You just gotta think about the gradual loss of land over time. We don't know how long this is going to take. We don't know how much time we have before islands just start disappearing off the map naturally. Not because of the Mother Flame being used to eradicate entire nations that the Gorosei and Im-sama don't want, but just naturally over time. We don't know how long this is going to take. But the fact that this is real, though, is very concerning. People's mindsets are going to change now. People's lifestyles may end up changing simply because what they thought would be a long and happy life and they'd be able to enjoy time on this island just may wind up just fully disappearing. Because of this, everyone is hearing this news all over the world. This isn't just some fabricated incident where just one nation hears it and then it's hearsay from people over. It's not like this is being told in Wano and then people over in Enies Lobby or people over in Dressrosa are all like, man, that sounds like nonsense. Oh, I thought it was true. This sounds true. Nah, that's just a rumor. No, everyone is hearing this same news at the same time. From the Navy to the revolutionaries to pirates to civilians. This is big news. The world we know is sinking. And it doesn't appear to be any way to stop that. I wonder if the hole in Enies Lobby caused the flood in certain countries, or a place like maybe Impel Down used to be inland, but the water rises. The hole in Enies Lobby, it didn't cause any flooding in certain countries. That was the water rising from the Lelusia Kingdom. If you're meaning when it said that a meter of water rose on certain islands, that came after the earthquake that happened after Lelusia was completely destroyed. So that's from that instance. Enies Lobby has been around for an incredibly long time, and we haven't really seen any flooding because of the hole in Enies Lobby. Though it does lead to a lot of speculation of whether or not Enies Lobby used to be an entire, a small island that existed before it got blasted in by the Mother Flame, just like Lelusia did. So there's still some speculation about what that hole came from, given that we get another similar hole from where Lelusia used to be. But now we're in an instance where islands of great import need to be located as soon as possible, or before these islands start getting engulfed in water. And I say this because now the race for the One Piece is going to become even more serious. Because those who are looking for the One Piece, hold on. But now the race for the One Piece is going to become even more serious, simply because now they got to locate that final island that will lead to not Raftel, but Laugh-Tale now. Because there's no guarantee that island's still going to be there as these islands are slowly sinking. Now, like I said, we don't know how long this is going to take. We don't know how long this is going to take. It could be days, weeks, even months in the One Piece world before we start seeing actual water level changes. But the race for the One Piece is going to become even more serious with this news of, hey, the world's going to be sinking into the sea. So now the thought is, okay, now we need to get the One Piece before it's lost to the ocean. So now the race for the throne is not going to be simply because who can get to One Piece first, but who can get to the One Piece before it is lost to the sea itself. So that's the situation that we're in right now. It's crazy. I wonder why Shanks or his crew don't have any devil fruits, because Shanks didn't go with Laugh-Tale. Maybe he learned something, someone else. Maybe he learned with someone else. Interesting. I wouldn't say he learned from someone else, but it was more so... It was more so he stayed behind to look after Buggy. But given Shanks' connections, I highly doubt that it'll be too difficult for him to find his way to Laugh-Tale, simply because of his resources. Not saying that he has an advantage over everyone simply because he knows where it is, because I'm pretty sure he doesn't know where it is, but he still wants to go after it, though. But as for the reason why, that still remains to be seen. So now, after this news, and when this transmission ends, because this is not the end of the transmission, now we got to see everyone's reaction to the news of all of this. Now we got to think about everyone who has situated their entire life on islands. Not just regular people, but pirates as well. Pirate Island Fulaled, that is subject to being engulfed by water. And if Avalokiteshvara is going to continue being an island man, he's got to really rethink how he's going to use his devil fruit power now, simply because there may not be any islands for him to use at all. So now we got the reactions. Yeah, we're all going to see the reactions next chapter. Maybe, but I wouldn't be surprised if we do. Now we got to think about all the islands and all the places that pirates are situated right now. So, we have Whole Cake Island, where the Charlotte family is. Still, some of them, I don't even know if they've come to the realization that Big Mom isn't going to be coming back. So they got to rethink everything, and especially if they're listening to this news. If they're listening to this news that the world will sink into the sea, they got to rethink how Whole Cake Island even works. An entire island just made up of different foods and whatnot across many different islands in one singular territory. That's subject to the sea rising. Then we got to think of Blackbeard and Pirate Island Fulaled. Literally a pirate's paradise, now subject to being sunk into the ocean. Then we got to think about all these different people. Then we got to think about Buggy. Got to think about Buggy and his delivery service, situated on an island. Now you got to turn it into a mobile delivery service because of the island's potential to be submerged into the sea. You got to think about Navy headquarters. Does Blackbeard even care about this message? We haven't seen Blackbeard even react to any of this news at all. That's the thing. We can't say, does Blackbeard even care about this message? Because we don't know. Because Blackbeard's mindset is an enigma. It really is. His thought process is something that many people haven't really figured out. Because he's a complex individual in terms of how he thinks. So we don't know. We don't know if Blackbeard cares about this message or not. But who knows? Given his penchant for learning a ton of different things and a ton of different knowledge and whatnot, I wouldn't be surprised if this news surprises him. Because this is something incredibly substantial. But we don't know. We don't know because I can't say because we haven't even seen his reaction to it. Everyone's reaction to this news will give you the answer that you need. So, but given how everything is going right now in the world of One Piece, we got the warlords already abolished. We got two former Yonko who have been removed from their position, and Buggy and Luffy. Buggy and Luffy are the new Yonkos. We got the Navy being moving more and more directly against pirates. We've seen even more Seraphim, such as the Seraphim of Crocodile and Gecko Moria and Doflamingo. We're seeing more and more movements from the Navy itself. We're seeing the revolutionaries making their move against the Celestial Dragons, proclaiming war on them, eradicating their entire food supply, so that the Celestial Dragons are having some hard times for themselves. The God Knights have made their appearance mainly just by Figurlan Garling. He's the first one that we've seen. We've seen our first execution of a Celestial Dragon, the first officially seen Celestial Dragon death in the series. We got that going on. We got Egghead, all this knowledge. We got Kizaru. We got the Gorosei, all of them showing up on Egghead. We got all of these events going on right now, okay? The biggest news in the world right now is Luffy was holding people hostage on Egghead, and Garp was missing in action after freeing Kobe and setting everyone free on Hachinosu so that they can escape. That's the biggest news! Zunisha's legs was long, right? Yeah, that's the reason why it's able to walk the way it can. It's incredibly, the length of Zunisha's legs are incredibly long. Incredibly long. They just don't look it because it's walking through the water. But we have all this big news that are just going on right now that everyone is all like, that doesn't seem right. Luffy was holding Vegapunk hostage on Egghead. That's as far as people know. That's the news that they got most recently. And now we got to deal with all this big news about the Navy and pirates and all these different things going around the world, these 8 nation rebellions going on. All of this, and now you get the news of like, hey, I know things are bad, but they can get worse. The world is sinking into the water. World is sinking into the sea.
You may not like it, you may find it preposterous, and you may even burst out in laughter, but the entire world will sink into the sea.
That's where we're at right now. So it's like the world can't catch a break. It can't catch a break to breathe. It's always some big news, one way or another. The world of One Piece cannot catch a moment of rest. So that's where we're at right now. This is the story of One Piece. And now we have world-ending stakes at hand here. We have world-ending stakes at hand here. Everything we knew about One Piece is not going to last. Oda just confirmed that to everyone. The world of One Piece is not going to stay the way it is. Soon everything we have grown so used to will be gone, and the only people who will be left are the ones who live on either islands that are capable of being able to float on the water, Zunisha, Sky Islands, or Fishman Island. Everything else will have to survive on ships, and that's all the world of One Piece will be left with. That's where we're at with One Piece. Not only do we have a dire situation with the Gorosei all showing up to stop Vegapunk's message, failing to do so, because Vegapunk has pulled a slicky on him, but now we have the revelation that the world will not last at all. This isn't like a great cataclysm event that we got from Fire Force, but this is a cataclysmic event because it's pretty much gonna upend economy. It's gonna upend geology. It's gonna upend everything. Also, another place that I forgot to mention that'll probably more than likely survive the waters raising would be Sacred Marijois, since it's situated on the highest point in the entire world, which is the Red Line. That'll be the one place that is guaranteed to survive without a single hint of anything bringing it down. Unless they pulled like an end of Game of Thrones where they just destroy the wall, which I highly doubt will happen because it's a very big wall. It's a very big wall. But that's one of the places that's going to survive this whole matter. It's just going to be Sacred Marijois. So now I'm just curious about the information about how Vegapunk came to this conclusion. Can't wait to see what Oda has in store for us next chapter. Are we going to learn more? Are we going to see reactions? Going to be interesting next chapter. It is! You don't give this sort of revelation without seeing the impressions and expressions and reactions from everyone present. All these places that we've seen. Imagine the panic! No one knows the day or the hour of when these waters will rise. So imagine how much panic there's going to be. It could be today. It could be tomorrow. It could be a week from now. So now there's going to be this fear. Because this is how panic and fear starts. You tell something that cataclysmic is going to happen. You give them evidence of when it could possibly happen, or that it is going to happen. And then you're going to have 1, 2, 3, maybe even 400,000 individuals who have the mindset of, oh, this is bad. We need to get ready now. And once one trickle starts, once one domino of panic starts, it could turn into a mass array of falling dominoes that leads into worldwide panic of the world ending. So not only are we thinking about, okay, we need to see everyone's reactions, the world is not going to be silent with this news. People are going to panic, especially people who are already poor, who are not able to pay tribute to the Celestial Dragons, who have no way to fully defend themselves from just regular situations, regular natural disasters and pirates and whatnot. Now you got to think about like, okay, not only do we have to worry about pirates and anything else dangerous, now we got to worry about our very homes being taken from us because of a massive flooding that's going to take place across the entire planet. Imagine the mass hysteria. Fear is a powerful motivator for people to panic. So just imagine the world who has already seen so much news pop up in the last, let's give or take like a full month. Let's say a full month given the events of Dressrosa all the way over to Wano. Let's just give it like a rough, let's say 30 days. Let's see 30 days from the events of Dressrosa all the way to where we are now in Egghead. How many major events have transpired? The 7 warlords have been abolished. The revolutionaries declared war on the Celestial Dragons. Public knowledge. The reverie transpired that resulted in the death of King Cobra. That everyone, public knowledge. Then we have Luffy being proclaimed an emperor along with Buggy. Public knowledge. The Seraphim have replaced the 7 warlords. Basically public knowledge. All these people that had a significant impact on the world, all these events that had a significant impact on the world, some were happy for it to happen, some were displeased that it was happening. Then you have Luffy taking place on Egghead, supposedly holding the world's greatest mind hostage, people listening in on the conversations that are happening there, and especially the Vegapunk message right now. All these things that have been transpiring around the entire world that no one has been able to survive. And, the world hasn't calmed down since the Reverie. That's what I'm getting at here. The world itself, especially with all the public knowledge out there right now, the world has not calmed down since the events of the Reverie, where everything that went down there was just a massive torrent of news. There hasn't been a quiet moment in the world since the Reverie started. Or at least after the Reverie. After the Reverie, when it got around the world that the 7 warlords were abolished, the world has just been in a massive torrent of information and world mind-shattering news ever since. Ever since. So now the world is going to be plunged right back into chaos again, thanks to, message, the world is sinking into the sea. You may not like it, but this is how I came to this hypothesis. The world will sink into the sea. So not only do we have all this warlord stuff, reverie stuff, revolutionary stuff, Luffy being an emperor stuff, the chaos of Wano stuff, Big Mom and Kaido being defeated stuff. Now we got this whole matter of the world this world becoming nothing but a water world. Just imagine the chaos. Some people wanting Dragon to go up to Egghead, but remember what Dragon said, they will move once the Holy Knights have been mobilized, like Oda has a plan for them. People are not patient. No, not. You sounded like Jake's teacher from American Dragon.
Write that down, Mr. Long. Dragons are real. Osmotic creatures are real.
I know who you're talking about, like Professor Rotwood. I know you're talking about Professor Rotwood. I remember him. But yeah, the mass hysteria and chaos that's going to ensue from not just this being isolated, because this isn't an isolated event. People reading all this stuff, this Reverie stuff happened? Oh, that's crazy, but we're all the way over here. I'm not worried about that. Oh, the revolutionaries are proclaiming war on the Celestial Dragons? Well, that doesn't really affect us, because we're all the way over there. We're in Dressrosa. Oh, Straw Hat Luffy has become one of the emperors, along with Buggy the Clown, Buggy the Genius Jester to replace Big Mom and Kaido? Well, hopefully this won't be too bad for us. Now, this is something that involves everyone, that affects everyone. The world is sinking into the sea. Well, now it affects me because this is my home. Just imagine, and I know I keep going back to this, but this is a serious situation. When an entire landmass is affected by a natural disaster, this isn't something that one can just obviously can't ignore. This is something that affects everyone in the immediate area. When Japan had those tsunamis, when Hurricane Katrina came through and affected New Orleans, and all the, I want to say it's New Orleans, please someone correct me if I'm wrong. But when all these natural disasters in our world happen, it wasn't just like a selective, isolated event. It affected everyone because everyone witnessed it. Those who were there at the time, they had to deal with that. Tornadoes ripped through entire neighborhoods. flooding on coastal lands can just wipe entire towns and cities off the map. Earthquakes can literally rip apart homes and families in different parts of the world. But this is a worldwide event. Imagine if it was just a worldwide tornado event that just happened all over. America's not safe, China's not safe, Russia's not safe, all of Europe isn't safe, South America isn't safe, all these different regions, Australia, they'll probably be fine because the tornado will probably be too scared to go to Australia because everything can kill you in Australia. But imagine all these places were subject to a massive disaster that affected the entire world. People are going to panic simply because it's the fear. It's the fear that they have no way to stop this. So now we have a world that is already beset by chaos event after chaos event after chaos event. And now you have it where the entire world is just going to be submerged in water. Everything you know, everyone you love that can't swim, that can't get a boat, that can't make it to safety, they're going to die. Like I said, One Piece's world doesn't have a single moment of peace. And I don't think we're going to see a moment of peace for a while. Because this is big news. This is bad news, but this is also big news. So now we gotta wait. Now we gotta wait after this break before we can find out if Vegapunk is going to talk even more about this. It's amazing and terrifying at the same time that this is the event that's transpiring around the world. I, for one, cannot wait for Vegapunk to explain how he came to this line of thinking. Honestly, I can't. Final Saga is just going to be chaos. It's been chaos for a while now. The Final Saga has been nothing but chaos for a while. Sure, there have been some moments during the Final Saga, like the later half of... Actually, when did the Final Saga start? Yeah, it started on chapter 1058. 1058. Yeah. 1058, which was like the start of Egghead. Yeah, the final C, the New World Saga. And then we go all the way to Egghead. 1058 was chapter... Hold on, let me go to it. Chapter 1058, New Emperor. Yeah, this is when everyone got their bounties. We got introduced to the Cross Guild. Yeah, everyone. Yeah, this is the bounties after everyone left Wano. Yeah, leaving Wano and Cross Guild. Yeah, that's basically that's where the Final Saga has started. And it's been chaos ever since, because after that, it's been nothing but craziness, like the Cross Guild and pirates hunting Navy soldiers. It's just crazy that we call this arc Egghead, but we're going around the world. The island is Egghead, but yeah. This arc is it's just this. It's the Egghead arc, but we're also going around the world. The island is Egghead, but yeah, I know, I understand what you mean. We're on Egghead, but we're cutting to all these different places because Egghead is affecting all these places. Just simply by this message being broadcasted out, it's affecting everyone. Everything that's happening on Egghead is essentially reaching out to everyone at this point. So, man. Yeah, Oda's he's not going to be having fun. he's already having fun ever since the saga started. And I have to say that I haven't run across a single chapter where I'm like, yeah, Oda really didn't cook with this one, because he really has. He really has been cooking with these chapters. He's really been doing some really good stuff for these chapters. And so far, Egghead's the same length as Enies Lobby. Pretty much. I mean, it's Enies Lobby 2.0, with an even larger Buster Call here to take out not only all of Egghead, but also the Straw Hats, and even more so Bonnie and Nico Robin now. So things are, this is Egghead, this is Enies Lobby 2.0. This is essentially what it is. But now we just gotta wait. So what do you guys think? What did y'all think of this? And I haven't really given you guys the proper moment to voice your thoughts on the chapters that we get through each month, because I always say what I want to say, then I says like, well, I'm done here, and I really haven't given you guys the floor. What do you guys think about this, about the chapters we got in April? We only got 2, but what do you think of them? Egghead has been going on for a while now, like 2 years. I want to say yes. Let me pull this up. Egghead arc started, yeah, pretty much started on 1058, and 1058... Let me see, 1058, oh, where is it? 1058 is when it officially started, and 1058 started back on August 29th, 2022. August 29th, 2022. So let me put in August 29th, 2022 to today. And I go to how long ago? Essentially 1 year and 8 months to the letter. 1 year, 8 months. So 4 more months and it'll be 2 years. That's how long it's been. And to think of all the information we gained from Egghead ever since then. My lips feel incredibly chapped. I'll fix that afterwards. So now, can I say this? I'm just grateful to be alive where I can read all this story and see where it goes. Because a lot of people didn't make it to see where One Piece is right now. Let alone to where it was in Wano during like when the anime was going. A lot of people didn't make it to see these incredibly pivotal moments happen. But I'm grateful to be alive where we can continue to enjoy the story, because it is amazing. Not just One Piece, but My Hero, Jujutsu Kaisen as well. I haven't heard anything from One Punch Man in a long time. But the chapters that I do react to for you guys on a Sunday, One Piece, My Hero, and JJK, they've been absolutely great. And I've been enjoying them. And I'm really happy to be enjoying this final saga as it goes until we eventually reach the end of One Piece itself. My thoughts on these chapters. With April, it's pretty much amazing. The countdown timer didn't disappoint. I thought it was going to go on like 10 chapters, but the timer is kind of quick. Yeah, it is. Which is why I said people were getting way too the frustration of Oda putting in a timer of when this message was going to go out just seems so overblown. I feel like the timer only lasted, what, 3 chapters? 3 chapters? And that's it? It ain't, because he could have stretched it out, where each chapter lasted a whole minute. Each chapter would last the whole minute. But he didn't. He concluded it in more or less 3, maybe 4 chapters. I'm just spitballing here. I feel like 11, 13 is the superior chapter and has spawned so many theories as to the end game of One Piece. The fact that Vegapunk's message leads with the world sinking, who knows what happens next? Yeah. You would think that he would explain, here's my hypothesis before I say what I'm going to say, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. And then he would say, so, put it shortly, the world as we know it will sink into the sea. But no, he's opening his message with that. So what comes after Is it this way? Yeah. What comes after is going to be the most important thing that Vegapunk says. Because he's not done talking. He's not done talking. Yeah, One Punch Man has been doing redraws. That explains why we haven't seen it in so long. But that's my overall thoughts for the chapters of One Piece that we got in the month of April. Is they've all been amazing. And y'all know me, I love reading lore. Whether I'm playing a video game and looking at weapon descriptions, character descriptions, world descriptions, I love reading, I love learning, and learning more and more about the world of One Piece as these chapters go on. Now it's got us putting pieces together, thinking about like, okay, so how's this going to affect the entire world? And what does that mean for everyone we know and love ever since this story has started? So I love the brainstorming that these chapters have caused in people. I really love the brainstorming. I see the theories, I see them all around, specifically the theories that go with what's actually happening in the story, not the obscure theories where it's like, okay, this character has absolutely nothing to do with the current situation, nor have we ever seen these made-up characters, because I've seen crazy theories before, and I never really acknowledge them simply because unless you're using facts we know, from confirmed things in the chapters, I don't care. But these other theories that we got, especially with these recent chapters for Egghead, it's really causing people to really see this story differently now. And especially the thing about Oda is he likes to do a lot of callbacks to previous chapters. He likes to do a lot of callbacks to previous chapters, hiding evidence in plain sight. Like, he literally got us with so many prior things over the history of the just recent arcs. The Mihawk is a sword theory. That is the first time I heard of that, and I just roll my eyes at that one. But just the amount of callbacks that Oda does to the beginning of the series, telling us like, oh, so this is, wow, I'd never noticed that. That's basically our expression whenever he reveals that sort of thing to us. But overall, the way One Piece is right now, we're finding out so much. So much. What used to be a very few amount of times where we would see the Gorosei is we're literally seeing them in every chapter now. For the past, 5 chapters? I want to say 4. Hold on, let me pull it up. When did they show up? Let me go to the chapter when they first showed up. Let me go to chapter 1109. Interception. They showed up. We didn't fully see them, but Saturn summoned them in 1109. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4. Basically 4. In the past 4 chapters, we've seen the Gorosei in each one. I thought Oda was going to reveal to us like the name of an ancient kingdom, but before that, the world is going to sink into the sea. Like, we could find out. We could find out the name of this kingdom during this conversation with Vegapunk. Especially if Mars and York aren't able to find the real transmission transponder snail everywhere on Egghead, because the thing about Mars is he can use observation haki to sense the voices of transponder snails, but there's just too many of them for him to go through each and every one. And the message will carry on longer than the message will continue as he searches. And he can't risk destroying every single building, because then he's just going to be wasting energy. And he can't destroy the building. He can't just destroy the building where the transmission is playing, because he risks destroying the power plant, the weapons development room, and igniting the gas cylinders that could just blow up the entire building and render their entire purpose of keeping the building safe so they can recreate the mother flame basically invalid. So honestly, when we come out of break, the fact that Vegapunk opens with some world-shattering news, such as the world is going to sink into the sea, what else is he gonna say? And the fact that he said him, I don't have much knowledge about him to begin with, mentioning that he's referencing Nika, because if he says the name Nika on live television, let's just call it live television, and broadcasts the name to the world, everyone is going to be questioning, who's Nika? What's Nika? Well, who's this Nika person he's talking about? The very name that the Gorosei do not want being broadcast anywhere outside of the world. They don't want the world to know who Nika is. Because Nika, his entire being is that of freedom. They don't want anyone knowing the name of a liberator, of a person that introduces absolute freedom to all those that Nika comes across. The Gorosei, who have lived their entire lives, for who knows how long, under the pretense of, let's keep all freedom for ourselves, and all the insects who live below Marijois, they are subject to us limiting their freedom. The last name they need being said over the airwaves across the entire world is the name of Nika and who he is. And if it were to ever be found out that Luffy also doubles as Nika, that he could be seen as the warrior of liberation that the world desperately needs from the world government. I'm just saying all this stuff. But when Vegapunk says, like, hold on, where is it? Hold on, because I really want to say what he said about Nika, and then Vegapunk was all like, Vegapunk! Where is it? Yeah. I will not apply the labels of good and evil at all, in fact, because I understand too little about him to begin with. And the thing about Nika is we don't know if he's like a good person or not. We just know he's a warrior of liberation. Now, whether he's a liberator of people who wanted to be freed or who didn't, even though he's known as a warrior of liberation and a liberator of slaves and whatnot, him saying, I will not apply the labels of good and evil at all. In fact, good and evil and all, labels of good and evil at all, in fact, because I understand too little about him to begin with. And here's the thing, if he says him, what are the odds that he name drops Nika for the whole world? I'm just saying, this, like I said, this is a name that the Gorosei do not want that name out there. The Straw Hats already know the name of Nika. They already know the name of Nika. Jewelry Bonnie, she already knows the name of Nika. And if she teams up with the Straw Hat crew, she'll be able to tell them who Nika is. But, even more, because, Kuma told her about Nika. As well as Vegapunk as well. But given Vegapunk's current state, I don't know if he's going to be speaking much longer. I wonder if Kizaru is going to do something one last time, or is he just done, like, let me rest? Last we saw of him, the dude was, like, on his back, huffing and puffing profusely because of how tired and beaten down he was because of the beating that he got from Luffy. But we don't know if Kizaru is down for the count. Because that is one significant person from this entire ordeal that we have not seen in a minute. We haven't seen Kizaru in a minute. We haven't seen Kizaru ever since Luffy launched him Pizza Hut style onto a ship. Afterwards, Saturn summoned in the rest of the Gorosei, so we haven't seen Kizaru ever since then. We haven't seen him. Nor do we know what he's thinking in this situation, given how he really didn't... He felt some type of way. He felt some type of way about having to kill Bonnie. He knew he was a cog, like he said, he was a cog in the machine, but he also felt some type of way about having to kill Bonnie. Resolving to say, like, I'll kill both you and Kuma in one stroke so you don't feel anything. I mean, if he was heartless about it, he would have just shot them both in the head, but he just wanted to kill them both quickly so he can get it over with. And most of the time when it was a serious moment, you don't even see his eyes. You just see the shine off of his sunglasses. We didn't see Luffy or Zoro in the latest chapter. No, we haven't seen Jinbei or Zoro. No, you're right. Luffy is not in this chapter. It was the one prior to it when Luffy got the Hakarl from Bragi. But yeah, we don't have Zoro, Jinbei, or Luffy present in this particular chapter. We have the rest of the Straw Hat crew, but not them. So where they're at, I wonder. Where they're at, I wonder. But Luffy and Dory and Bragi are still running, and Zoro and Jinbei are making their way towards the ship. So it'll be interesting to see where they are. And how this all comes to a close. But we gotta wait. We gotta wait. Because we're on break. Should be interesting, but we gotta wait all the same. I'm excited though. Even though we just started this break, because today is Tuesday, yes? Today is Tuesday. And May starts tomorrow. So now we gotta wait the rest of this week, then deal with the fact that we're not getting a chapter next week and go through that week, and then wait through that week so we can get another chapter on the preceding Sunday after that, after next week. So we gotta wait for the continuation of what could be some of the best and most informative news from Vegapunk in this message. As we're on Manga Brink, we have the anime for a while. Yeah, we do. We do. But, ladies and gentlemen, I feel like I said everything that I needed to say about One Piece. I got your thoughts, which is good, because I like to hear your thoughts concerning this series. This is good conversation for all of us. And hopefully, as these series continues on, we'll get more and more and more people. So this turns into like a big, massive discussion, because I would really like to reach more and more people concerning One Piece. I know people do podcasts and stuff like that, but I want to offer my own brand of conversating this sort of thing with more and more people. So to everyone, whether you're watching this for the first time or if I got my regulars, I cannot wait to speak about One Piece more with all of you. I can't wait for anime-only reaction to Saturn coming to Egghead. Oh, they have no idea just what's about to happen. A member of the Gorosei leaving Sacred Marijois and traveling to Egghead by themselves. Look, that's already I lost my mind when I saw that. What do you mean one of the Gorosei have left and are making their way to Egghead? Those who watch anime only? Oh, they have no idea. I can't wait to see their reactions to it. I'm gonna do my reaction to it and pretend like I've never seen it before. But, I can't wait to see everyone else's reaction to a member of the Gorosei leaving Sacred Marijois. Should be an interesting compilation of people reacting to this for the very first time. But, ladies and gentlemen, I said what I needed to say concerning to this month's reflections. I look forward to the chapters we get in May, and look forward to the next reflection stream we have the next time. That world government ship in the latest anime, we know who is in that ship. Yes, we do. But I look forward to our next One Piece reflections at the end of May. So to everyone here, all I can say to you is, hope you all enjoyed. Can't wait to see you all in my next video. Like, comment, and even subscribe if you haven't already, because I am always looking forward to entertaining you. So have a fantastic day, and once again, as always, later, peoples!